Hey, Allison, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Thanks for agreeing to do this video interview and testimonial with
Yeah,
me. You just say, you can introduce yourself, say what you do.
sure. I'm Alison McClean. I'm a business coach for wellness entrepreneurs.
Awesome. And you worked with me last year,
hmm
right? And a couple of months. And what brought you to me?
well, we met in a mastermind, and I was realizing that I had some nervous system blocks, I guess you could say. I realized it was showing up in some ways that was, I thought, like holding me back in my business. And also, I had, a history of trauma in my youth and things I've gone through that, maybe I could work through them. So,
Yeah, awesome.
uh,
And what made like me kind of stand out for you to do that with?
well, because some of the trauma I experienced, I've done a lot of work. Let's just say that I've like done a lot of work, and I've been in some practitioner settings where, for example, they would bring up books, and I'm like, yeah, I've been there, done that. um, and or like phrases and I was just looking for a practitioner that both could hold the space for trauma as a certified licensed practitioner with experience with that, as well as go beyond that. And I knew I really needed to process through some things being held in my body, as well as change some perspectives and mindsets and create just feel not feel safety all the time, but be able to feel safe, even if I was feeling an uncomfortable or scary emotion or in a situation without like completing shutting down or like disassociating.
Yeah, one of the things I think I like to talk about, and I'm sure you'll remember this the second I say it, right, is like how to tell the difference between what is unsafe versus what is unfamiliar, what feels unsafe because it's unfamiliar, which is a lot of times like people with trauma in that background where our bodies have a difficult time distinguishing between those two things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Were there any hesitations that you had?
Oh, sure. As an entrepreneur, I have a tendency to like invest and then play catch up. So, I had just invested in a pretty significant mastermind, and I was in the process of paying that down on my credit card. And I had savings, but I didn't necessarily want to use them. I like to keep that. Um, and so it would mean like taking on, if I didn't use my savings, taking on more like credit card and also kind of having my business perform at a level where um I was like the revenue I was bringing in, I knew I could make it work, but also like I liked to have buffer space, so it would mean that like I would need to have all the clients that I was having and have all that the revenue coming in. But at the same time, I also knew that not investing might keep me at that place, or even I could self sabotage. So, um, I decided part of the reason that I was hiring you was part of the reason that I was scared to hire you. So, like once I thought that through, I was like, okay, well, it's kind of a no brainer that I need to do this.
That's it. What would you say to somebody that's that's in that space that
Mhm.
you were now
Well,
know, like say that they know they have to do this work too. They've been thinking about working with me. They know it's something they really need or really want, but there's also that fear that you've just mentioned?
Yeah, for me, the cool thing about it was by investing, I was trusting myself and going all in on myself, which is a transformation of itself. Like I used to hear about, and I felt this in a different way for the mastermind that I invested in too. But you know, prior to these two experiences, I used to hear that saying like, oh, the transformation is in paying the money. And I never had really felt that, but I felt that like that year was like how investing in these really increased my trust with myself and my all in. And I really put a lot of effort into the work and really showed up 100% to the best of my abilities.
That's a really great thing to speak to, right? And you can, maybe this isn't a question that resonates at all,
Mm-hmm.
but did it feel different, right? Because as entrepreneurs, particularly entrepreneurs in coaching spaces who are coaches, we're kind of used to making those, or we eventually get used to making those financial investments that are for the business too, right?
Uh-huh.
And even though like you knew like these blocks were, getting in the way of business stuff, it really like there's so many different places this kind of has a ripple effect in your life. Is
Mm-hmm.
there did anything feel different about doing this just for you? It wasn't a solely for the business, right? It wasn't a business thing. It was like, this is
Uh-huh.
the thing.
Oh, sure. I mean, I think that's what the majority of the sessions were like focusing what was happening for me day to day. Yeah, some of it was business, some of it was personal, but ultimately it was like how I was feeling day to day, moment to moment, and supporting myself. And that would be in a personal situation, like communication with my husband or family member, as well as like how I might show up on a consultation call.
Yeah, I think sometimes we don't realize just how much our emotions and like what's going on in our past or like outside of business actually plays into the business side of things when really like everything is connected to our emotions,
Mm-hmm.
how we feel and how we're talking to ourselves, how we talk to ourselves in one space plays out in another as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what changes start, did you notice in your life?
Um, I felt stronger, mentally less anxious, waking up less anxious. And if I did feel anxious, then I would like have a protocol I would do. Feel like how I thought of myself and thought of my business changed. Um, how I showed up to my business, like the approach to it felt different. Um, and communication with my husband felt different. So, and just emotions, like it didn't feel like some like out there kind of like esoteric thing where I didn't, they were either coming or going or staying, and felt like I had like more understanding of myself and why I feel certain ways with emotions, maybe why I might even be afraid of some emotions, and how to support myself during that process.
And are there any like specific examples that come to mind in your business that then allowed you to notice a change or something happening?
Yeah, I guess on consultations, I began to feel like more relaxed and calm and centered, where I could be more creative in hearing what the potential client might be saying, instead of being like kind of closed off because my nervous system was clamped down. I could be access it. I could access like more questions, which then fueled a better conversation. And then I think also just realizing like in the day to day of my business, like even though I would have certain goals and be striving for certain things, Also appreciating how much I've done in my business, how much I've created, all the success I did have, all the things that I have gone through and have gotten me where I was. I think I began to like really appreciate myself a lot more, which brought in a lot more confidence, which then I brought to my marketing a lot more.
Yes, I think that capacity to receive is so
Mm-hmm.
important, right? And we have to be able to like, we have to be able to receive, which means that we have to be able to receive not just money that feels easy to people, but like praise and compliments and ownership of, I know I'm good at this and I make an impact on people's lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What did you like best about working with me specifically, or my style?
Um, that you always reminded me that things don't have to be a certain way or not to bypass something I was feeling and to always acknowledge and slow down whatever it was that I was feeling and realize like nothing has gone wrong. It's like normal and learn how to be at peace with that and accepting of that and then also understanding what it is that I did want to feel.
Yeah, that's a big one too, right? And we're so used to like resisting, I know I don't want that. We're then also like closing ourselves off to even like imagining what we want to feel more of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's been, do you remember when we ended, like how many months? It's been a number of months since
Mm-hmm.
you did about 9 months of work total,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so what are like some of the shifts? Because when we do like particularly energy work, it keeps compounding over time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Speak to that, like what shifts you've noticed, even that have continued to happen, even in the time since we completed our work together.
Well, my brother unexpectedly passed away during our time working together, and it was really hard. And so I think some of that work, where maybe I could get, but try to just avoid all those uncomfortable feelings, but then they're like stockpiling in my system. I realized that I haven't been doing that. I've been pausing and honoring when I need to grieve and
Mhm.
really just going through the grieving process. Or even some days like being like, I'm really effing angry about this or that. And working through that. And I think that allowed all our family got together over the holidays, and it could have been I could have been very anxious during that whole time or very, I don't know, not enjoying that whole time. It could have been a stressful situation, I guess. But it ended up there was a lot of family there, like 13 people, and they were all at our house for several days. Some of them were in town for like 10 days, which so was a long time. And it was really a lovely holiday. And we had some good conversations, all of us. There were some tense moments at times with my sister, but we got through it. So and everyone said like how much they really enjoyed the holidays. So I think had I not felt okay in my own body and all that I was going through, then there could have been more pivotal moments that maybe didn't end well.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like that's something that likely helped the rest of your family see, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
see you modeling how, I mean, the holidays can be a stressful period on a perfect holiday, right? But
Mm-hmm.
given that you just had this very unexpected loss to like be able to come together like that during a stressful season and just let it be what it is and grieve and also celebrate together. It sounds really powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there anything specific you would say to somebody who was like unsure about working with me?
Um, I think just set up a call and talk it through and really figure out like what you want to get out of it specifically. and then ask if it's, possible and that's the work that you do. Because if it is, then, you just have to also ask yourself, what's the cost of not doing it? And figure out for you, like, where you want to be in that spectrum.
And is there any like feedback you have? Like my business is set up, we work together for usually 6 months at a time, and that's 18 sessions with a week of integration
Mm-hmm.
built in each month. So it'll be like 3 weekly sessions and then a week off for that. Can you speak to how that felt, what that felt like?
Yeah, that felt good. I think the scheduling was hard at times only because my schedule is really tight, and then there was like time change stuff. But it felt like a good pace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And is there anything in general that you'd like me to know, or any
Uh
watching this to know?
I think sometimes, like, emotions and feelings can feel, again, like, so out there, or like, why, like, a nice thing to do, a nice thing to spend money on, but in reality it's like everything. If you're not able to have the capacity to figure out what's going on for yourself and why, and have tools to support yourself, then it really influences how you feel day to day, moment to moment. And it can impact if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a mom, any area of life.
Actually, that brings me another question is, what's your relationship like to yourself now?
I think I'm a lot more compassionate and trusting.
Mhm. And that's, I think to me, like that's the foundation of life in general, but particularly when you're an entrepreneur, because there's just always so many things coming in and at you. And I mean, as a human, regardless of entrepreneurship, we're just constantly being told this is what we should be doing, this thing over here, maybe we should do it this other way. As
Mhm.
that, so is that been something that's different in your life now, being able to kind of like put those blinders on or like kind of dim that sound?
And it was always like that. I was
Mhm.
always kind of, I mean, I work out of a she shed. I was
Yeah,
always kind of like the rebellious, do it my way, anyways.
there's a
So
reason
I
why
was
we have, but that's why we
maybe,
attract.
yeah, maybe if anything, it's a little bit stronger, or I don't feel as risky doing that. It's like, okay, yeah, this is my way, and it's okay to do it different. Like, I have more permission. Maybe that's it.
Yeah. Oh, that's, yeah, that's a great way to put at it. And like I said, I'm very much like that too. But I think sometimes the difference is like you can recognize what's going on and just like catch yourself in like, okay, I can hear my brain telling me that I should be doing this thing over here. However, deep in my soul, I know how I want to do this, and that's what I'm gonna do instead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview and sharing what your experience was like.
Yeah. You're very welcome. Thank you.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.